This is Christopher John Björknes. It is February 9th, 2025. Donald Trump is doing everything I've been telling you he would do for the last 10 years. He is sabotaging all of our Western alliances. He is undermining and destroying the FBI and the CIA so that the Israelis, Russians, and Chinese can operate without any interference and without getting caught or prosecuted within the United States and throughout the world. He is undermining any American intelligence operations throughout the world to forward the interests of America and to provide for our defense against our enemies. He is allowing a fifth column and Trojan horse into the United States. And he is working with the enemy and ensuring that there are no law enforcement or intelligence agencies that can catch him and prosecute him for his treason against the United States of America. He is destroying NATO. He is waging war on NATO allies, Canada and Denmark. He is undermining the Ukrainians after we set them up and they utilized their blood, treasure, and territory, fighting not only for their interests, but for ours. And I said all of this would happen. I knew this was coming. I published a book in December of last year anticipating all this. And I'm going to tell you how all this provides actually excellent opportunities to create a new society. Humanity is undergoing a new phase of evolution. This is the way nature works, and it's happening now. And we are a part of nature. Even our technologies and our abstract thoughts and everything else is all a part of the physical processes of the universe. And in this next phase of evolution, there will be intelligent people with a strong will to survive and the means to survive who gain control over their environment and alter their environment in such a way that it facilitates and ensures their own survival. There will also be stupid, gullible people, masses of them, who are taken in by their enemies and who will be killed off. So there is a certain amount of eugenics involved in all of this, but only if there is an elite core, a remnant of humanity composed of eugenically selected superior people who are more intelligent than others, less gullible than others, and who have a stronger will to survive and create means for themselves to survive. And there will be a certain degree of benign neglect involved in all of this. We can't allow ourselves to go down with everyone else. But as they go down, they become increasingly disadvantaged. And if we group together and form a new society, we can create a society that's filled with advantages. Since our enemies are leading all the other nations and all the masses of people to commit collective suicide and to deliberately destroy themselves and destroy one another, they go down and down and down as we can go up and up and up. So as they create greater and greater disadvantages for themselves, even if we simply preserve what we have and what we are, we become increasingly advantaged over them. And then if we utilize our intelligence to gain even further advantages, we will be like people with nuclear weapons fighting against savages with spears and bows and arrows. So this is an opportunity, but we have to seize that opportunity, and we have to separate from the people who are inevitably going to go down because they are so gullible and stupid. Now, we should continue to fight in the courts. I always said that our last defense as Trump destroys our government will be the courts, and we should do everything to preserve society in general and to save as many people as possible. But we have to approach this realistically. And we have to approach this as what it is. It's a process of evolution. Those who are fit to survive will survive, and those who are susceptible to parasites and give in to the enemy because they are so gullible and stupid that they allow the enemy to influence their conscious thought processes and their societies to such an extent that they will inevitably perish. And we can't go down with them, but we have to take steps now to ensure our own survival, or we will go down with them. Now, what's happening is Trump is firing all kinds of people in the government, either directly or coercing them into quitting. That creates a tremendous pool of talent, of high IQ people who are very skillful, who are highly trained, who are successful, intelligent, creative. There are engineers, there are nuclear physicists, there are chemists, there are people in the intelligence agencies who know how to screen people and how to engage in defensive acts of sabotage, how to influence foreign societies, how to prevent subversive influences within a society. All of these people can be tapped and can be recruited to join in this new society I would like to create. And there again, as one side goes down, the other side goes up. So if we tap all of these resources, it will have an inevitable brain drain on foreign nations that are bound to become our enemies, because the ultimate enemy will pit them against us. But they will fall because we will get their best people, and those best people will get us to rise and get them to fall. So we gain increasing advantages constantly as they are dragging down everyone else. And as we build ourselves up, Trump is creating that opportunity for this brain drain to not only diminish our enemies, but to bolster us and provide us with a higher eugenically beneficial population. He's also doing it in the private sector, and he's playing games with tariffs, but he whimsically and arbitrarily threatens tariffs without any permanence to anything that he says and without legislation to it. Now, that inhibits investors in the United States from setting up new industries and businesses and mining and oil drilling, et cetera, because they don't know if Trump will pull the rug out from under them as he did with his meme coins. He is rug pulling the whole United States with these tariff games, because if investors invest in new industries, invest in agricultural enterprises, invest in oil drilling, and then Trump lifts all the tariffs and puts tariffs on our own businesses, et cetera, our economy will be completely destroyed. And people don't know what to expect from him, so they can't invest in our future. It would be a fool's enterprise to take Trump at his word and to invest in the United States. And if they do make that investment, he can always pull the rug out from under them and then diminish the tariffs and then foreign competition with cheaper labor, with the espionage he is enabling by getting rid of the FBI and CIA so that nobody is watching this espionage or prosecuting it in the United States. The foreigners will take all that technology and all those industries that we develop, and they'll steal them from us, and Trump is enabling that. And if he does eventually impose tariffs and Americans invest in all kinds of domestic industries and businesses and agricultural enterprises and mining and natural resource development, and then he pulls the rug out from under us, we're in an even worse situation than if we hadn't done that in the first place. And that's what he's setting up. He's doing the same thing in the educational systems. We have all kinds of foreign enemy influencers who are promoted by the social media companies who do psychological operations to get Americans to think that it's more beneficial for them to become like the Amish and work on subsistence farms rather than gaining a higher education and developing American industry and American business and higher forms of American agriculture in which robotics can replace this foreign labor that Trump threatens to expel from the country and deport. And he's encouraging Americans to become that lower class of labor. He's a Bolshevik. He's destroying the intelligentsia and promoting a working class of slaves. And he's taking advantage of that process of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. But I'm saying we should do that on a nationalistic level, where we become the rich nation, where all of our citizens are rich and all of our citizens are intelligent and an upper echelon of superior people. And that as we brain drain all these people from these other countries that Trump and all of our other subverted, traitorous, treacherous leaders are undermining and destroying, we will gain tremendous advantages as they crumble down and destroy themselves. And then as this war between the East and West and the so-called global South and the West ramps up, they will continue to fight it and bite at one another and destroy one another and bring each other down. And if we create the next generation of weapons, we can dominate the world very, very easily. And we need defensive systems. So what we don't need are zig-heiling neo-Nazis who are government informants and working for the Israelis and the Russians to cause chaos in our societies. What we need are these talented, brilliant people, these highly skilled professionals to become our hackers. They are becoming increasingly reliant on high technology and computer systems that are tremendously vulnerable if there are sophisticated people who know how to engage in defensive actions to protect any new society which emerges from foreign threats. We need people who would know how to physically destroy, reprogram, and influence the AI of our enemies to destroy all these systems they're building up so that they would collapse immediately. A computer can be reprogrammed or physically destroyed effectively in moments. So these things that they're building up are tremendously vulnerable to attack. And so there will be a strong incentive for them to leave us alone if we create credible deterrence. And again, they will continue to drop inevitably. All the things that Trump is doing, all the things that Western leaders are doing, are leading to inevitable collapse by design. And that can be utilized as an advantage to preserve an elite remnant. We're certainly not out to harm anyone, simply enabling ourselves to survive this apocalypse, which is being deliberately engineered so that we don't go down with this ship, and so that there is an evolution of human beings where the weaker ones who are incapable of survival in this modern system do not cause everyone else to perish, as in the Soviet Union when the Bolsheviks put the full weight of the masses against the intelligentsia. The intelligentsia was exterminated, and it was terribly dysgenic, and it caused all kinds of deliberate famine in the Soviet Union. They were only bailed out by Herbert Hoover and the United States sending money and food to the Soviets. There are famines being engineered in the West. If Trump intimidates all the foreign labor who pick our food and isolates and alienates Mexico, who supplies a lot of our food, and Canada, who supplies a lot of our food, we're being set up for famine. And he's not setting up, he's not allowing investment into robotics and into industries and businesses to replace all this foreign labor. Instead, he's setting it up so that the whole country will have to become its own avocado pickers and orange pickers and cotton pickers. A lot of that is automated now, I understand. But what I'm getting at is that he is setting it up so no one wants to invest in the United States because he whimsically flips the light switch on and off so that they can't make any economic anticipations of the future. And instead, we'll just let everything fall apart. And so we will become increasingly dependent on countries that Trump is alienating from us. It's all a deliberate setup to completely destroy us. But if we can get an elite class of people who are healthy, people who are sane, people who want to survive, people who are not gullible to these professional influencers who are being put out on social media to act as foreign influence psychological operations against Americans who got Trump elected, these corrupt political parties that all work to get selected candidates alternatively elected. The Democrats completely, deliberately self-sabotaged to ensure that Trump would be elected. You can see many of the enemy influencers who were big in the Democratic Party now getting behind Trump to bring about this ultimate destruction of the West. These so-called far-right people are the same communists who are the far left. They are Bolsheviks. They are Zionists. No matter how these wolves cloak themselves in sheep's clothing, they are the same enemy bringing about our destruction in the same ways, destroying our economy, making it impossible for people to anticipate what the future holds and to make reasonable investments to build up a stable basis to our economy, to create international alliances in our favor instead of alienating and destroying our alliances. We are being completely set up. But not only is the West being destroyed, the East is tremendously vulnerable as they have these population explosions in India and also down in Africa. They have tremendous population explosions. China, India, Africa, they are all highly susceptible to famine. They are all highly susceptible to any attacks on their water supply. Now, if we had a government that we controlled that was not influenced by the enemy, that promoted our own domestic survival and created deterrence against all of our enemies, all of these vulnerabilities of our enemies could be very easily exploited to create a national defense to preserve ourselves. And these people are going to destroy one another and they're going to destroy themselves. So all we would have to do is simply create a deterrence where they are forced to leave us alone, or they will be annihilated. And they will annihilate themselves and they will annihilate each other because they are too stupid and too gullible to get their act together and to create a system that favors their own interests and enables their own survival. The survival of the fittest of the human organism is contingent upon the human organism altering its environment to make its environment survivable. They are instead altering the environment of the human organism to ensure the destruction of our basic genetics at a DNA and RNA level, and to ensure that we don't have clean water, food that preserves us, organisms which are not genetically modified, providing our amino acids for the construction of our genetic material and for the growth of our organism from its basic DNA into healthy, thriving organisms. They are engineering the environment to ensure that the human organism cannot survive. Survival of the fittest of the human organism depends upon the human organism altering its environment to make it survivable. We wear clothing. We heat our homes. We put roofs over our head to keep the rain from hitting us. We don't have to live in an environment which is detrimental to us if we utilize our intelligence and our will to survive to prevent enemies from subverting our new society and from guaranteeing that we kill ourselves off and kill one another off, as is happening on a global scale. And it's happening because the masses are becoming increasingly susceptible to psychological warfare and manipulation. And we have the social media companies and our enemies and our elected officials all in cahoots to create an environment that ensures our ultimate extermination and extinction. And one of the things I've been saying for a very long time is that Donald Trump is going to sabotage the nuclear defenses of the United States of America. And at some point, he is going to give the green light to Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, or whoever their successors may be, to wage a nuclear strike against the United States. And Donald Trump, through his Israeli connections, is going to give insurances and guarantees that if they do this, there will be no retaliatory strike from the United States, and the West will be consumed in nuclear Armageddon. Now, whether there will be a double cross involved in that, so both sides are concurrently taken out or not, that's the direction he wants us to head to, and that is what he is doing. Now, there has to be, if there's going to be a survival of a remnant of European people, we have to get the very brightest, very best people working on our side and create a society in which we can preserve ourselves, instead of all of our brightest and best constantly being engaged in simply repairing what the enemy is destroying. We will simply have that brain drain, let them destroy and consume themselves, and build ourselves up. Instead of trying to repair, we will create something new and better. And if we have people who have the ability to sabotage our enemies, to create new weapons, weapons which are undetectable and therefore indefensible against, weapons which will provide an ultimate deterrence. We can do this. We can create a new society and simply allow them to evaporate, to destroy themselves. We'll do our best to preserve our own people if we can, and if they are too stupid and too gullible, we'll have to let them go, but we will not allow them to drag us down with them. This process has to start now. We now have tremendous advantages as Donald Trump engages in self-sabotage in the West. People are beginning to panic. There is a brain drain. There is a white flight out of historically European nations. All of that should be funneled and directed and eugenically selected into a new superior society that has a strong, domineering will to survive, that has a cohesiveness, that wants to preserve the genetics of our people, the traditions of our people, the greatness of our people. We can even extract DNA from the graves of our ancestors and resurrect some of the greatest human beings who have ever lived and create a eugenic development of our people that will make us increasingly superior to everyone else with each successive generation. And people have been so brainwashed to view superiority as if that were evil. It is not evil. It is a natural physical process of the universe to obtain higher and greater and superiority of the intellect in each generation and to select for that. And it is only this Bolshevistic breeding pressure that is placed on people to drive them down, to make them inferior, and to have the full weight of the inferior masses exterminate and breed with the superior classes of people who are more intelligent, less gullible, and more successful. Now, within Western societies, they have corrupted it, and it is a natural process for the rich to get richer and the poor to get poorer. We can do that on an international level. And the greater the discrepancy between us and our adversaries become, the greater our advantages become. So we have to seize this moment and take advantage of the fact that our enemies have engineered our societies so that they become inevitably self-destructive in order to reduce the effectiveness of the adversaries we will face inevitably when we do create our own society, and when the enemy recognizes that our society is geared towards survival, is geared towards eugenic breeding, is geared towards creating a better and more homogeneous and more determined and more survivable society. They will throw the weight of the masses of these inferior people against us. But we will have such tremendous advantages at that point that we will have ultimate deterrence. And if they are foolish and self-destructive enough to attack us, that we will be able to annihilate them in our own defense. All of this is perfectly moral. This is the highest morality. This is the great morality of the Germanic tribes, of the Greek tribes. Survival of the people is the highest morality. Promoting the health and well-being and intellect of the people is the highest morality to strive for. We can get away from all this corruption, all this psychological warfare that this enemy has been waging on us for 2,500 years, and build something new. But we have to do it now. We have to seize this perfect opportunity as the other people bring themselves down, to step up over them and to leap over them and to surpass them on every level, to take advantage of the fact that they are destroying the professional classes, to garner and tap all of these brilliant, successful, talented, highly trained, highly skillful people to create something new, and to not waste any more time countering the enemy on its own battlefield and repairing all the damage that it's deliberately doing, and simply build something new. That is the best way to restore ourselves, to restore the society of our ancestors, is to get out of the hands of the enemy and to seize control over our own fate, to become entirely self-sufficient, and to not allow the subterfuge, the espionage, the sabotage, and the psychological warfare of our adversaries around the world to penetrate into our society the way that the social media companies and our elected officials are deliberately doing to destroy us. There's no reason that these Chinese, that these Russian, that these Israeli psychological operations should be tolerated in the United States. But we have dupes and we have professional influencers who are telling people, in the name of free speech, we have to allow foreign psychological warfare intelligence operations against the American people. And we have to elect politicians like Donald Trump to enable these foreign intelligence operations to destroy us and undermine the very fabric of our societies, to make us self-hating, to make us worship our foreign adversaries and believe that the Chinese are superior people who are benevolent and should be allowed to take over the world and come into our societies and engage in espionage and steal everything that we have and corrupt everything that we have and destroying the FBI and the CIA so that none of this can be monitored, so that there's no defense or reaction against this, so that there's no counter espionage, so that there's no people watching the watchers and ensuring that our politicians aren't selling us out to the enemy, ensuring that our politicians aren't a fifth column and a Trojan horse of the enemy, which Donald Trump most obviously is. But people are so gullible and susceptible to this, and the social media companies have such tremendous power and are obviously the enemy on our shores that we're probably going to lose this battle in the United States, and we have to separate ourselves from this ship that is going down and create something new so that we can preserve something even better. And we need to tap the very best because these enemies are attacking the very best the way that Bolsheviks always do. They go straight for the throat of the intelligentsia, the management class, the industry, the business leaders, the businesses themselves, the bourgeoisie they hate and openly state they are going to exterminate. We need to tap all those people and cause a brain drain in the increasingly Bolshevik nations so that they're successful in destroying themselves, but we will be successful in surviving and surpassing them. This is a war. We need military defenses. We need military deterrence. We need boundaries that they cannot cross. We need to prevent psychological warfare operations against our citizens, against our political institutions, against our businesses, our agriculture, our industry, the exploitation of natural resources within our territory. We need to establish a territory. But the primary thing we need is the human capital, the intelligent people who are not gullible, the intelligent people who have not lost their will to survive, the intelligent people who are not so caught up in their own morbid romanticism that they see their own destruction as inevitable. We need to get away from all of those people. We need to get away from defeatists. We need to get away from stupid, gullible people who follow influencers, Pied Pipers, Judas goats right off the cliff and commit collective suicide, who help them to undermine our societies. We need to get away from the people who are engaged in psychological warfare operations against us. We need to raise up children who are not exposed to media, which is constantly corrupting them and leading inevitably to their extermination, to the genocide of European peoples. And I want to warn people about this satanic Nazism that the Russians are promoting throughout the world. The communists always try to create a dialectic of Nazism, which they also call fascism, even though it's not. It's socialism, it's communism, as is Mussolini's fascism itself. Mussolini was the biggest fascist in the world when his Jewish girlfriend, Margarita Sephardi, convinced him to start calling himself a fascist because nobody wanted to elect socialists. So he got elected on the fascist platform, but at heart, he was a socialist communist, just like Adolf Hitler. This Nazism, many of the Nazis are open Satanists. The Zionists said that Nazism is the necessary form of the Gentiles' nationalism, which promotes Zionism. Zionism depends upon Nazism, is what the Kabbalists and the Zionists openly stated. They embraced Hitler. They want the West to put on the mask of satanic Nazism to provide a pretext for the global South and the Marxist Russians and Chinese and North Koreans to wage nuclear war against us, just as Putin and the Israelis actively created fake Nazi movements in Ukraine to provide Putin with a pretext to engage in so-called denazification by bombing Ukraine into ruins and mass murdering hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and destroying Ukrainian cities and stealing Ukrainian territory. Just as Hitler and Stalin utilized Nazism, satanic Nazism, the necessary other side of the coin of Zionism, to create a pretext for the formation of the nation of Israel and for Joseph Stalin to take over all of Eastern Europe to denazify it. They have their Trump-loving neo-Nazis promoting Nazism, and it is getting algorithmically boosted on all the social media platforms. It is getting promoted throughout the mass media to create this satanic force of the West that they will then destroy. This is another of the mousetraps that I've been warning about for over 20 years. I told you 20 years ago this was coming, and to watch out. Don't play the game by their rules. Don't follow their script. We have to be smarter than that and not be gullible and not keep doing the same script over and over again that has always failed deliberately to enable the enemy to consume and destroy us. We need to write our own script. We need to create our own future, become self-sufficient. And if among our people there are masses who are determined to destroy themselves and to follow this script that was written 2,500 years ago to consume themselves, there's nothing we can do to save them, but there's a lot we can do to save ourselves. And as we save ourselves, we will be able to save ourselves from all of our enemies, foreign and domestic, including the genetically inferior idiots who are susceptible to all of this psychological warfare that causes them to step into these traps and consume themselves and consume one another. And like a phoenix will rise from the ashes of all that. I'm not encouraging it. I think we should still engage as much as we possibly can in trying to defend what we have, but they're setting it up so that people burn down the barn to get rid of the rats, so that people kill the patient in order to cure the disease. And they are so good and so efficient and have such control over the public square and public opinion that I don't think we're going to be successful in defeating that. But we can certainly be very successful in isolating ourselves from it and rising as everyone else goes down. And we have to do it right now, immediately. And I anticipated all of this before Trump was inaugurated. And I wrote a book called Intelligent Morality, in which I discuss some of these ideas. I can't go too deeply into everything that I know that has to be done to save us, but I'm giving you hints about it. There are going to be people, as there always have been for the past 30 years, who rip off my work and try to co-opt it. And many of these people are working for the enemy to lead you into another mousetrap. So be aware that is happening, and more of it is certainly coming. We need people who know about technologies for screening out enemy agents. And we need to really work on developing that screening process. We have to be able to screen people both eugenically and to prevent enemy agents from penetrating and interfering and subverting what we are going to do to build to save ourselves. And we have to do all this immediately. The window of opportunity is wide open because Trump is destroying Western society, and our enemies are gathering, and the populations are growing in the worst areas, and all of this is going to lead them to inevitable destruction that can actually serve in a way that enables us to survive and to gain tremendous advantages as they continue to completely disadvantage themselves. So don't go down with them. Don't let their disadvantages become your disadvantages. Instead, make their disadvantages your advantage. As the poor become poorer because they are too stupid to prevent people from destroying them, the rich will get richer. But the rich in these societies are also going to go down with the ship. So we need the intellectually rich, whatever social class they are, to join with us and form a superior society that can perpetuate the race and improve it and move forward, so that the next step of evolution is not transhumanism and is not the dysgenic effect of Bolshevism, where women become common property for the very worst dregs and scumbags of society to force themselves upon women and breed inferior and increasingly inferior children in every generation. We can do the opposite. And we now have tremendous technologies of artificial intelligence and robotics, so that we will not make the mistakes that our ancestors made when they would form empires and import inferior organisms into their gene pool to serve as their slave labor. We don't need that anymore. That always resulted ultimately in the subversion and destruction of the superior empires, of the Egyptians, of the Greeks, of the Romans. We have robotics to take the place of foreign labor. We have artificial intelligence to serve and bolster our professional class, as well as labor and everything else, so that we won't need any foreign people to act as our slaves, as all the previous empires did. But we can utilize technology that cannot interbreed with us or supersede us or surpass us. And at the same time, if we have the right people, we can ensure that we have people who can hack or physically destroy or reprogram or influence the artificial intelligence and robotics of any adversaries who present themselves to us, and their societies will collapse immediately. They will be tremendously vulnerable in that way. And if we have the next level that we will be able to take, because they developed all this, we can now develop something new with a fresh look. We can take a fresh look at it and take it to a new level, a higher level than it has ever been. And we will gain all of these increasing advantages if we seize these opportunities. But it has to be action in the physical world. It can't be simply abstract discussion that goes nowhere. And we have to stop simply pretending that talking about things resolves things. Talking about things can be very destructive if it leads to defeatism, if it leads to demoralization, if it leads to depression or this sense that nothing can be done and what's coming is inevitable. If we fall into the traps of the Abrahamic religions, which all of this has been engineered to fulfill, and believe that this is somehow part of a God's plan, we have to reject all of that and step out of all that physical abstraction and realize that we are organisms in a physical environment, and we have to create an environment in which we can survive and thrive. I'll be having more to say about this as time goes on, and it will weed out the people who have no intelligence. It will weed out the people who have no will to survive. And even just a handful of people who are intelligent, who do want to survive what's coming, grouped together, that can become a magnetic force. And we can tap all of these people who are becoming disaffected with society and who are being attacked by social media, psychological warfare operations, who are being attacked by Trump's federal government and the state government, local governments. And they are going to be driven towards something. And we have to create the collection point where all of this human talent and all of this genetic material can coalesce into something new and superior, and the advantages we will have will be tremendous, and they will continue to destroy themselves and disadvantage themselves, and we will gain increasingly the upper hand on every front. But it has to happen, and it has to happen in the real physical world, not simply in abstractions and talk and wishes. So I thank you all for listening. Please think about what I've been talking about. At my website, you can contribute to help me develop these ideas. You'll also find my book, Intelligent Morality. It's also available on my video channels, YouTube, BitChute, Odysee. My channel name is CJB Books. I put it up as a video audio book. So if you can't afford to buy it, or you prefer listening to it to reading it directly in hard copy form, you can find it for free on my video channels. Just simply look for Intelligent Morality in my video channels. But there's a lot more that I have planned that I can openly discuss. And I need people to help with screening out who is eugenically superior and who is potentially lying, concealing their past, who is actually an intelligent asset of the enemy, who will try to infiltrate and penetrate what we're doing and undermine it, destroy it, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm getting at. So please think about it. Think about the fact that our enemies and our own people are creating disadvantages for themselves, which can be and must be exploited if we are to gain advantages which will enable us to survive. Otherwise, we're going to get flushed with all the rest, and we're going to get exterminated with all the rest, which is the way that Bolshevism always operates. For once will the intelligentsia get together to preserve itself instead of trying to defend those who are ultimately out to exterminate us. Stop worrying so much about social justice and start considering how you can create an elite remnant to survive what's inevitably coming and what is being deliberately engineered to kill us all off. Don't think that it is noble to go down with the very worst when instead we can work together to preserve the very best. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye for now.